Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. I hope your day and your week are going very well so far. We've got some Friday college football bowl action here, and I've got some picks to go ahead and share with you guys. But first, as always, people, please make sure to go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and drop a comment down below. It helps the channel grow, and it really does mean a ton to us. With a new day and a new week comes some new opportunities to go ahead and make some money. I have 7 college football picks to go and share with you guys for this Friday college football bowl slate. But first, before we dive into today's picks, a quick little recap of how he fared last week. Jumping over to GuyBostonSports.com. Now, college football playoff round 1, we absolutely nailed it last week. This is just from Saturday's picks. This doesn't even include the hits that we had in Friday's video. We have 4-1 on Saturday. I know didn't take a genius to see that one coming. It was pretty predictable that all the favorites were going to win and probably cover. There's some problems with the college football playoff they need to figure out, but we took advantage of it, went 4-1 overall. The only miss we had was that Tennessee-Ohio State under at 46.5. But besides that, every other pick we got spot on correct. We are now 82-2-3. So remember earlier in the year we had a little bit of a bad record after a couple of rough weeks. I told you guys by the end of this year we're going to be positive. Well, we're now back to 500 now on the season, 82-2-3 with a lot of bowl games and a lot of playoff games still to go. So riding some positive momentum going into today's video, the rest of the college football bowl season. I'll have videos coming out pretty much daily for the bowl games. I figure this is better than do a whole long 45-minute week-long slate. We'll go day by day for each bowl slate, game, day, whatever. Fumble my words there, but yeah, we have 7 picks for this Friday college football bowl slate. We have a lot of picks to get to, not a lot of time to waste, but first, wanted to shout out Fade Me. We're doing an end-of-the-year sale for the Fade Me store. I got a bunch of new stuff. Shout out to Ev for sending the care package to end the year off strong for the holiday season. Got the Guy Boston Sports hat. Got the Gambler hoodie. This thing is super comfortable. Everything is on sale right now on Fade Me. Go check it out. We got tons of great markdowns on all kinds of stuff. Go get your Fade Me gear while this sale lasts for the end of the year. The link for that will be down below in the description and in the pinned comment as well. But guys, no more time to waste. Let's hop right into today's picks. All right, guys, jumping right into the outlier screen, guys. Our first game we're targeting is the Oklahoma at Navy game, 12 p.m. kickoff on Friday. I actually have 2 picks coming from this game, but our first pick from this game, we're going with the under here, 43.5. Now, I will mention off the top, this is not the college football playoffs, but with these bowl games, a lot of opt-outs. A lot of guys transfer portals, just choosing not to play, injuries, whatever the case may be. This is the new era of college football. Bowl games just don't matter to people anymore because of the way the transfer portal works and all this stuff. So all of these teams are going to have players who are out. Oklahoma in particular in this one has a lot of guys who either opted out or entered the transfer portal. So before you guys run to the comments and say, oh, his pick doesn't, that's not a good pick because all the players are, they're missing a lot of guys in the transfer portal and opt-outs and all this stuff. Guys, every single team in these bowl games is affected one way or another by these opt-outs, these transfer portal guys. Now, of course, some people more than others, right? But overall, every team is affected by this. So I'm not going to comment too much on it every single game because, again, every team is facing the same problem right now. Unless you're in the college football playoff, and even some of those playoff teams are facing similar issues. But yeah, so we're going with the under here in this spot. These are 2 pretty solid defensive teams. Navy overall tied 42nd for scoring defense in college football. Oklahoma on the flip side 34th, giving 21.6 points per game. So we've got 2 top 50 defensive units in college football and 2 offenses that I think are pretty inconsistent here. Now, Oklahoma in general, 95th scoring offense in college football. They lose their quarterback. They lose a lot of their pieces, of course, the transfer portal. Despite all that, I still like Oklahoma in this spot to, not score a lot of points. And the same thing for Navy. I don't think Navy's going to score a lot of points. Now, Navy offensively on the year, they did score more, like tied for 37th, averaging 32.2 points per game this season. So Navy was a better offensive team overall. However, weak schedule and their style of play, I don't know how well it's going to go here against Oklahoma. Navy lives and dies by the run. This is the 6th best rushing offense in college football. However, you're going against an Oklahoma defense that's tied for 11th in rushing defense, which is 105.8 rushing yards per game. Also tied for 4th in tackles for loss, so it's a big deal. This is one of the best run defenses in college football, going against one of the best run offenses. However, again, look at Navy's schedule. They didn't really play a lot of elite defenses. This is probably the toughest defense Navy played next to Notre Dame's. Of course, Notre Dame was the key defense they played. But yeah, I think this is a good under spot. Now, both these teams, the under, though, so far this year, 42% hit rate for Oklahoma, 33% hit rate for Navy. So it's not like the under hit a ton in these games. I just think the matchup here, you're going to have 2 teams that are probably going to rely on the run a lot in this game, especially Oklahoma with the quarterback change, a lot of RPOs, a lot of runs. Oklahoma's strength already was running the football anyways. I just don't think Oklahoma's offense is going to generate too many points against this Navy defense, which is overall pretty solid. And again, with all the options and whatnot, you think Oklahoma's offense will be a little inconsistent here. And on the flip side, yeah, Navy's offense, scores well, but they got a really tough defensive matchup here against Oklahoma. I don't see Navy scoring a ton of points either. I just don't see a lot of points being scored this one. I think this is going to be a low-scoring, kind of ugly defensive battle game between Oklahoma and Navy. So in that case, I like the under 43.5 in this spot. And then my second pick in this game, my second pick overall, I actually am riding the Oklahoma -3. I know everything that I've said so far kind of seems like I'm leaning Navy here. I do like Oklahoma in this spot, though, despite the fact that obviously they lose their starting quarterback. Even with the loss of Jackson Arnold, who obviously goes and transfers to Auburn in a big offseason move, I still think that Oklahoma's offense should be okay. Even with the loss of Arnold, I do think they're going to lean into these RPO packages. They're going to probably lean into their running game a little bit more in this spot. And Navy, look at their defense this year. They're not a terrible defensive team overall, but the one weakness they did have was their run defense. 80th rushing defense in college football, giving up 156 rushing yards per game, just about 155.9. So just about 156 rushing yards. Not a very good run defense, and I think that's where Oklahoma's going to go ahead and tack them in this spot. And then on the flip side, Navy cannot throw the football. Their one strength is their run game, and again, like we just talked about, Oklahoma's run defense is really, really solid. This line opened up at Oklahoma like -6.5, -7, and then it came back down to 3 after the Jackson Arnold news and some of the other opt-outs that faced Oklahoma. I think regardless of those, I still think Oklahoma is the better team in the spot. They're the more challenged teams at the end of the day. I think Oklahoma's defense, and with a little bit of help from a running attack here, will get them the victory. Again, it's definitely going to be an uglier game, a lower scoring kind of close game, but I do like Oklahoma in this spot -3. All right, guys, next up we got Georgia Tech at Vanderbilt, 3:30 p.m. kickoff on Friday. We got Georgia Tech here -3 against the Commodores. I'm ultimately just not sure where Vanderbilt's going to be able to hang around with Georgia Tech in this game. Now, Georgia Tech defensively, they're not a great defensive team, but they are really strong in the one area where Vanderbilt's offense has a strength, which is the running game, right? Vanderbilt with their offense, they're 117th in passing yards per game, so not a really good passing attack. Their one strength is their run game, which is 86th in the nation, which isn't really all that good to begin with, but they do play in the SEC, so playing an SEC schedule, sometimes your numbers are not going to look as good unless you're one of the top teams. But if they have a strength, it is definitely on the ground. But you look at, for Georgia Tech, their strength on defense, 31st in rushing yards allowed, giving them just 120.2 rushing yards per game. So you have their strongest point on defense going against Vanderbilt's strongest point on offense. And unfortunately, where Georgia Tech's defense is tied for 81st in passing yards, I don't think Vanderbilt's offense will be able to take advantage of that because they're 117th in passing yards. So not a very good passing offense. I know there's not a very good passing defense, but this is not the offense to take advantage of that. And if you go ahead and look at the flip side here, Georgia Tech, a pretty solid offensive team, top 60 scoring team in the nation. They're top 50 in both passing yards and rushing yards. So yes, Vanderbilt has a pretty solid run defense, tied for 45th in the nation, going against the 35th rushing offense in the nation. However, Georgia Tech, top 50 passing attack in the country, averaging 240.3 passing yards per game. Vanderbilt's passing defense is horrific, 101st, gave up nearly 238.3 passing yards per game. Vanderbilt doesn't force a lot of turnovers. They don't have a great of a pass rush. It looks like Georgia Tech has a clear advantage on offense in this spot. They should be able to go ahead and control the game. I just don't see how Vanderbilt offensively will be able to hang around close here. I like Georgia Tech here -3 on the spread. Georgia Tech, pretty solid team, and they played Georgia. They nearly beat Georgia, who obviously now the number 2 seed in the college football playoff, SEC champion. Georgia Tech, the last time out, nearly upset Georgia in a crazy game. This is a really solid Georgia Tech team who, they beat Miami. Again, they almost beat Georgia. The Notre Dame game wasn't too close, but for a little bit there, it looked decent. They beat Duke, so on and so forth. Again, Georgia Tech wasn't a great team, but they were a solid team. I think going up against here at Vanderbilt, I think they have the clear advantage. So I like Georgia Tech here on the spread minus. So Georgia Tech -3. My second pick from this game, my fourth pick overall. I'm going to rock with the under here, 51.5. Again, I just don't see how Vanderbilt scores enough points to keep this total high. And on the Georgia Tech side, although I do think Georgia Tech should have more success, this is not an awful Vanderbilt defense. So I do think, it's not a great Vanderbilt defense, but, I just don't know if Georgia Tech's going to necessarily run the score up on this team. So I do like the under here. I think it's the smart play. I think these are two run-heavy teams with, Georgia Tech having an okay passing attack. Again, it is top 50 in the nation in terms of passing yards per game, but I do think that points are going to be hard to come by in this spot. I like the under. I think Georgia Tech does a lot of the heavy lifting with the scoring here, but this line seems a little too high for me. I just don't see Vanderbilt contributing enough to get this over. So I like the under here, 51.5. Next up, we got Texas Tech against Arkansas, and surprisingly, I'm going to go with Texas Tech here on the money line. Now, I know Texas Tech, they obviously, sorry about that. They lose their offensive coordinator and their defensive coordinator, so a lot of instability right now within the Red Raiders program. Despite that, though, I still think Texas Tech has the advantage here, mainly because Arkansas is losing a lot of key pieces. They're losing Armstrong, their number one wide receiver. They got some key injuries on the defensive side of the football. I just don't think all the roster losses for Arkansas, they're going to be able to overcome those. And yes, I know Texas Tech, like I just mentioned, with the coaching instability, I still like Texas Tech a lot in this spot. Offensively, they're still a really solid team. 9th best passing offense in college football, going up against the 108th ranked passing defense in Arkansas. You have a clear advantage there for the Red Raiders offense. This is the 5th best scoring offense in college football overall. A solid team. And on the flip side, although Arkansas, you see offensively, you do see some really high marks, specifically in passing yards. You got to wonder, with Armstrong out, with some of the guys on offense being out, how good is this Arkansas offense going to look in this spot? Again, Texas Tech, their defense, not very good in their own right, tied for 121st in scoring, giving up almost 35 points per game to opposing teams. So not a very good defense for Texas Tech, but again, with Arkansas, you just don't know what to make of this offense with some of the losses that they have faced. So I do like Texas Tech on the money line. Again, it's kind of a coin flip game for me. If I have to pick, though, I'm going to go with the Red Raiders here, because I do think, despite the coaching changes, this roster is still mainly intact from the regular season, where Arkansas has lost a lot of key pieces on both offense and defense. So I like the Red Raiders here on the money line. And guys, we're hitting the 11-minute mark in today's video. So if you are still watching, please comment 11 down below. As always, we appreciate those who watch all the way through. We put a lot of work in these videos, and it really does mean a lot. So make sure to comment 11 down below if you're still watching. All right, guys, my second to last pick in today's video, we've got the Syracuse-Washington State game, 8 p.m. kickoff on Friday. I'm going with the over here, 59.5 points in this game. Now, both these teams, moderate cover rates on the over overall this year. You see Syracuse 42% at this line of 59.5. Washington State 50% hit rate on this line of 59.5. Again, overall, not bad numbers there. Again, it could be a lot better, but not terrible. Looking at both sides of the football, really what matters here is that both of these defenses are pretty trash. And I do think both offenses are solid enough where you're going to see kind of a shootout in this game. Syracuse overall 94th scoring defense in college football, 65th in passing yards allowed per game, 75th in rushing yards allowed per game, 96th, tied for 96th in yards per play allowed. Not a very good, very inefficient in the red zone across the board. No good numbers here for Syracuse. The only thing in the top 50 they currently rank is in third down conversions. They're tied for 44th. I guess sacks also tied for 46th. Besides that, though, everything else ranked outside the top 50 defensively. And for Washington State, the 90th scoring defense, 117th in passing yards allowed, 98th in rushing yards allowed. Really bad numbers. Like I said, you see Syracuse offensively with Kyle McCord. Really good offense. The number one ranked passing offense in college football, averaging 363 passing yards per game. Kyle McCord and that Syracuse offense, they can go ahead and take advantage of a porous and weak Washington State defense. And on the flip side, the same thing for Washington State. This is the 8th best scoring offense in college football, 24th in passing yards, 55th in rushing yards. Both of these offenses should have a field day playing each other. Expect a high-scoring, high-power, firework kind of game with a lot of scoring here in this bowl game. So I do like the over here a lot in this spot, even at the elevated line of 59.5 points. And my 7th and final pick in today's slate, guys, comes from the Texas A&M USC game, 10:30 p.m. kickoff on Friday. We're going with the Aggies here, -4 against the Trojans. I just wonder here how USC is going to be able to hang around here with their offense. Now, overall, they weren't a terrible offensive team, but definitely a step down from the Caleb Williams year they had the year before. Still a top 10 passing offense in college football. However, this offensive line was not very good at USC. You see tied for 72nd in sacks allowed this year. Outside the top 100, a lot of key offensive line stats, and they lost their starting tackle to the transfer portal. No Mason Murphy, and overall, this team ranked 120th in pass blocking this year. So, Texas A&M, I'm sure their defensive line is not going to look as potent as it did in the regular season due to the fact of the transfer portal and whatnot. But I wonder how USC is going to fare against this A&M defense with the fact they already didn't have a great pass blocking offensive line to begin with, but now you lose your starting right tackle. I don't think that makes anything better. The last time we saw USC against Notre Dame, they got pressured a pretty healthy amount in that spot. And for A&M, I just think they had a really tough season. There are points where they looked like a legitimate playoff team. They obviously fell short, end up with 4 losses, but I still like A&M in this spot to finish the year off strong and kind of build going into next season. I do think Texas A&M has a clear advantage on the offensive side of things as well. This was a top 25 rushing attack in college football. In terms of yards per game, tied for 21st nation, almost 200 rushing yards per game. USC 53rd rushing defense, so not a great rushing defense, not the worst in college football either. USC defensively were definitely better this year. Overall, just an average kind of subpar defense, 56th in scoring, 88th in passing yards allowed. Overall, just not a great defensive team, and offensively, again, they're solid, but they're also missing a couple of receivers, so that top 10 passing attack, mixed with the fact that they might face more pressure and 2 of their top receivers are both gone. I wonder how this USC team going to look. I really think this whole transfer portal thing is so stupid. why college football allows it to happen. You literally make your own product suck. Why not move the transfer portal, move the season around, make it start earlier to avoid all this nonsense? The fact that we have to do these bowl games and have to basically look through every single day who's opting out, who's there, who's transfer portal, who's not, it's so stupid, guys. I would love to actually see these teams at full strength play each other, although I do think A&M would probably have the advantage there. I'd like to see these bowl games with teams at full strength, not see them with half their rosters out. So it stinks, but I do think I'm going to go with Texas A&M here on the spread, -4 against USC. I just think they're the better spot in this matchup. All right, guys, that is it for me today. Thank you very much, as always, for watching. One more time, please make sure to go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and drop a comment down below. I'll be back on Saturday with another college football picks video, but until then, I hope you're all winners. Enjoy this Friday bowl slate. Let's go ahead and make some money.